Hi everyone, this will be lecture number 9, where we will be continuing our discussion of the ecumenical councils and the Christological controversies of the 4th and 5th centuries. This week we will be dealing with the Council of Chalcedon, or Chalcedon, depending on how you pronounce it. Just say it confidently and people will think you're right. The Council of Chalcedon and the issue of the divinity and the humanity of Christ, and how the two are both united and distinct. And it could be said, I think, that the discussion of Arianism from the last class was all about how to understand the origins of the Son, the origins of the incarnate Word of Christ, and the relationship of the Son to the Godhead. As we saw, the issue implied both Christological questions and Trinitarian questions. Today we kind of ask the follow-up question, the corollary on the other side. What is Christ's relationship to us, to humanity? We've all probably seen before what's called a Newton's cradle. It's sometimes used as an illustration tool in physics to demonstrate momentum and energy transfer. So it's one of those things where you have the little frame and 4 or 5 silver metal balls that pull one this way and it swings back and it hits the others, and then they swing this way and it goes back and forth. For some reason, it seems like people have used them as decorations on their desk or paperweights or something like that. Newton's cradle is what that's called, and it demonstrates momentum and energy transfer back and forth. This can also, I think, be a bit of an illustration for the history of heresy and the history of the development of doctrinal orthodoxy, where one extreme leads to a corresponding extreme on the other side, and there's some movement back and forth and back and forth. Someone denies the divinity of Christ over here, and they're attacked by someone who defends the divinity of Christ to the other side, to the point that they say too much about that and kind of neglect something about the humanity, and so on. And that's the way that it goes. Of course, the unfolding of the history of heresies and doctrine isn't governed by the laws of physics, the physical laws of back and forth, but it does seem to be a product of human nature to go from one extreme to another before finally moderating and finding the proper balance. And that seems to be what happens in the church at times as well as it does elsewhere. The historian Leo Davis says this: just as all philosophers are said to be basically either Aristotelian or Platonist, so, roughly speaking, all theologians are in Christology either Antiochian, beginning with the Jesus of the Synoptic Gospels and attempting to explain how this man is also God, or they're Alexandrian, beginning with the Word of John's prologue and attempting to understand the implications of God taking flesh. Two sides that are both important, and people fall to one side or the other. Our overarching quote for the class today, and it's really a standard reference that's made by everyone who studies this season in church history, comes from Gregory Nazianzus, one of the Cappadocian fathers. It's easily the most important thing that you'll hear today, and well worth remembering. And it comes from an answer that he gave to someone who asked him a question: why does the humanity of Christ matter? Gregory responded by saying this: for that which he has not assumed, he has not healed. But that which is united to his Godhead is also saved. If only half of Adam fell, then that which Christ assumed and saved may be half also. But if the whole of his nature fell, it must be united to the whole of him that was begotten, and so be saved as a whole. These words, and especially the very first line, for that which has not been assumed has not been healed, they tell us why these debates matter about the relationship between humanity and divinity of Christ. Not because we like just rehashing centuries-old fights over semantics and logic or anything like that, but because on those semantics depends the salvation of the world and of ourselves. And so we're learning about these heresies and the people that initiated them and the issues that they created and those that responded to them, not for the sake of trivia to know names and dates, but because in this story our lives depend on it. This is what we will be working through in our class again today, and it's good to be reminded of the reason why that stands behind it.